KCFL and BC Lions fans. This is Three Down Bros coming to you after the Eastern and Western finals. And unfortunately, the BC Lions, locker cleanout day or end of the season interviews. We're going to get into that. Maybe some tidbits around the CFL. We watched most of the games, so let's get into it. Roland, where do you want to start? The Eastern final or the Western final?
Sure. Let's start with the Eastern in chronological order, I guess.
Sure.
And if you're joining us on the live stream, as usual, please feel free to type in your chat, in our chat, and type in your thoughts and comments. Anything you want to say, anything you agree or disagree with what we've said, would love to chat with you.
All right. So Eastern final, Roland. What were your expectations going in, and what were your thoughts on that one?
Well, I honestly expected Montreal to win. I mean, I know Toronto was on a roll the last part of their season, but I thought Montreal was going to take it. And initially, at the beginning of the game, Montreal's offense was hitting, and Toronto's offense was sputtering. And they were only in the game because of complementary football. Their defense and their special teams kept them in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got to halftime and it was tied, I was starting to think, Toronto's, Toronto should have been way behind, but they're not.
Yeah.
So Montreal better kick it up. And then the second half, I thought Montreal could not keep the ball secure. They kept, giving the ball over, whether it's a fumble or what, right? And then in the second half, Montreal's defense just let them down. Toronto just came back, and they got a lead, and then Chad Kelly got hurt. That looked really bad when he got hurt, and of course we don't want to see anyone hurt. I mean, I've made it known I don't like Chad Kelly, but of course we don't want to see anyone get hurt. At that point, I thought, hey, maybe Montreal got a lucky break. Toronto's offense is now going to sputter. If Montreal can put together a few good drives and score, they could win.
Well, let's stop you right here, because you went all the way to the third quarter.
All right.
On a more detail than on more of a high level thought. All good, Roland.
Okay.
All good, Roland.
Yeah.
So let me. Okay. So you thought you thought Montreal was going to win.
Yeah.
And ball security was a massive issue.
Yeah.
Fletcher, very reliable this year, very productive fantasy.
Yeah.
2 terrible turnovers.
Yeah, exactly.
One led to it was like he caught it and then he bobbled it and then it was a pick 6, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one, he was running, he drops the ball, he fumbled it.
Yeah.
So how many turnovers? I think they had at least 3. Montreal had 3 turnovers in field goal range.
Yeah.
So it was, and Cody did not have a good game. But
in the first half, the offense was doing okay. I mean, other than the turnovers, they were actually scoring, and but the turnovers was killing them. They had a good time of possession in the first half as well. It was quite tilted towards Montreal, and I thought if they kept this going, Toronto's defense is going to be tired because they're on the field a lot. But Toronto found another gear. Their defense just wouldn't let up.
We've like the Lions have played the Owls a couple of times, and the Owls are really good at the short passing game and then the yak yards, right? Toronto's DBs and linebackers very active. They didn't give them much. They gave them underneath. They tried to go deep. I think Julian Grant caught a couple. But I think Cody just had an okay game. Not a great game. not a game like, I mean, his best game last year was in the Grey Cup, right?
Yeah.
Or leading up to it, but a really good game in the playoffs. This year they couldn't replicate it. Too many, way too many. So, all right, when Chad Kelly goes down, they are up by 8. The Argos are up by 8 with
Yes.
pretty much a whole quarter to go.
Yes.
So Montreal, no excuses,
Yes.
right? So Montreal gets a touchdown. They go for the 2-point convert with like what 2 minutes left. But before then, they were like, if you remember, they were scoring touchdowns and they're going for 2-point converts earlier and like the late in the third quarter, right? Because they
Yeah.
we don't want to be down by 9. We so, but they kept on. I think they missed 2,
Yeah.
and I'm like going, at what time do you start going for 2-point converts? This is CFL. I mean, I thought they started to go for 2-point converts a bit early, and it bit them because when they got that touchdown with like 2-3 minutes left, there was a 2-point gap, so they had to go for it.
Yeah.
If so, I mean, I don't know. Who am I to second guess a Grey Cup winning coach? But I thought that was a little tad early.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, continue on. Fourth quarter. What did you see from Arbuckle?
He didn't play any like he wasn't spectacular. He was just managing the game. He did what he was supposed to do. Um, so you know, I think it was Toronto's defense that won them the fourth quarter after Chad Kelly got hurt. I don't think. Yeah, I didn't really sense that the Toronto offense was. In fact, I think I tweeted out whoever wins the Western Final is probably going to beat Toronto.
Wow, I
Without
mean, they don't.
without Chad Kelly, they're not gonna be able to produce, right? I mean, even if their defense and their special teams can do the same thing that they did against Montreal, the offense still needs to. There were like Chad Kelly was cold. He could not put together a drive, and then he threw like these long bombs, and he connected.
He's a really good long ball thrower.
Yeah,
So I'm going to redirect you back to a comment you made either what 1 or 2 streams ago. You say an elite quarterback with a subpar O line versus a really good O line and a middle of the road quarterback.
yeah.
So you would you say when Kelly went down,
True, true.
Toronto?
Yeah,
I mean, Arbuckle is maybe not even an average CFL quarterback, right?
yeah,
You probably say he's like a C class quarterback,
yeah,
and you could say there's 10 better 10, 12 quarterbacks better than him in the league.
yeah,
All right. So he goes in behind that Toronto O line. They looked solid. And Montreal has a good D line, right?
yeah,
And he threw some big time throws. Like that one to Unger over the middle. It was a second down. It's within 2. Montreal wants to get the ball back.
yeah,
Second and long, and he just boo. I mean, they went 3-man front,
yeah,
but they dropped so many guys in the back.
yeah.
But he found a crosser and he laid it in, and it was a
He did.
perfect throw.
Yes.
I didn't think he had it in him. And then the next play, he goes deep. Again, I'm like, what are you going deep for? But Beverett, I have no idea what he did. You saw him, right? He just ran right into the receiver.
Yeah.
That was an easy PI call,
Yeah.
even for the CFL official, I might add. They didn't blow it. I mean, it was like right away. That was PI, pretty obvious PI, and that was pretty much the game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now I hear what you're saying, and I did say that. I don't know if it's enough though. I think.
Well, Winnipeg's on a roll.
Yeah. Yeah. Winnipeg's
But
on the roll, and
Montreal was scuffling.
yeah, they their offense. I thought was doing okay, and then they kept turning the ball over, and I think that got to them.
But look at their record. Look at their record in the last third of the year. After pretty much they locked up first place. Like BC goes into them and just like lays a beat down. I mean, come on. BC is not very good this year. Very, very hot and cold are very average, depending how you look at it, right?
Yeah,
And then they come to BC, they lose. I guess it was a Vernon Adams kind of redemption game. Everyone wanted to see Vernon Adams play well and
yeah,
played hard. But I mean, Montreal was just okay in that game. The following week in Winnipeg, against Winnipeg, yeah, it was that wind, that crazy wind
yeah,
that allowed them to lose. But you know what? When you start losing games, I'm just wondering if you lose that edge.
yeah,
I mean, the CFL's they benefited on the for the 9-team league in the CFL last year because they just got hot the last third of the year and they just pretty much steamrolled and they just won all the games, pretty much, and played very well, right? And they peaked right into the playoffs.
and they
This year,
and they continued on this year. Beginning of the season,
yeah,
they were still going
but
strong.
the last third,
Yeah,
and we in BC we've seen these are good teams in the past. So we had the first good 2/3, the lousy last third, and it bites you in the playoffs.
yes,
So so the Alouettes have been the CFL poster boy of getting hot at the last third and winning it all,
yes,
and having an awesome record, and then subsequent year on the other side of that coin, having an awesome record in the first 2/3 of the year. Last third of the year, they just lose their edge.
yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing really to play
Yeah,
for.
that's the problem when you lock up first place so soon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then they, so, but they should have won. They lost the game with all those turnovers.
yes.
You can't
But
get,
in spite of the turnovers, their offense in the first half was still clicking,
yeah,
and then Chad Kelly threw a long bomb, and they were able to score with such a short time of possession, and then it's back to their defense again. And at that point, I thought, Montreal better take advantage of this. And I think they only ended up with a field goal on that
mm,
last drive, right?
yeah,
They should
yeah.
have had a touchdown if they really wanted to, put Toronto on the back foot, right?
I think offensively they've been struggling for a little. I mean, they've been struggling. I think Cody's had a couple of off games. I know he had like a birth of a child or something, and he missed some practice time before. I think
Yeah,
before the BC game.
yeah,
Yeah, they're just not. They weren't playing at their peak form. That's for sure.
yeah,
But they still should have won. Even ball security. If they had ball security,
yeah,
they would have won. I mean, they only lost by 2 points, right? So ball security.
yeah,
They don't give up special teams touchdown. You don't give up a pick six on a bobble ball.
yeah.
Like that is like
But it's 2 points because Chad Kelly got hurt. If Kelly didn't get hurt, I think Toronto would have won by a bigger margin.
going away, right?
Yeah,
Because he was starting to heat up.
yeah. And like I said, I don't like him. I don't like his background, his character. But he showed that he was a good player. Like he has the skills, right?
Yeah.
I don't. When he got hurt, uh, initially the team didn't know that he was hurt, so no one was looking at him.
Well, he kind of, he got up. He
Yeah,
tried to walk and then he quickly went down. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. That looked. The moment he went down, I knew that it was serious because
yeah.
he's not one who would just go down, right?
Hmm.
And then when they showed the replay, it looked really bad. And then everyone went around him, and the head coach came, and I don't know if you heard because the mics were all on, right?
Yeah.
He says, "Love you, guy." So they do have a connection. The head coach and that quarterback, they have a strong connection. Is so they won the game for him. Can that emotion carry them into next week? I don't.
I
I
mean,
find it hard to believe that they can.
if they play the Winnipeg of the first 4 games of the season, they can win because Winnipeg was giving the ball away like candy and
Yeah,
on Halloween
yeah,
in the first 4 games of the season, but that's a long time ago because
yeah.
they aren't making anywhere of those mistakes.
That's right. I mean,
So,
against Saskatchewan, they were solid.
so let's transition to the Western final.
Okay.
What were your expectations, Roland?
So I wanted Saskatchewan to win. So I was,
So that means you thought the Bombers would win.
uh, I, I, I wouldn't say that. I thought Saskatchewan had a good chance of winning. In fact, I wanted them to win, and I thought they had a good chance of winning.
It was at a 50-50 coin flip for you?
Yeah, maybe even yeah, a 50-50. But then
Well, I thought it was gonna be Winnipeg, Toronto in the Grey Cup. So
okay,
yeah, I thought it was pretty obvious.
yeah,
But I mean, hey, there's always any given CFL Saturday,
yeah.
things can happen. But yeah, okay, go ahead with
But
Western final.
once they started the first quarter, then I saw Winnipeg's game. Winnipeg was on fire. Uh,
No one can cover Lawler.
yeah, Lawler, and then later on Oliveira. Man,
Yeah,
you know, he got he got first contact like 3 yards, and then he took another 10 yards. Like that's the kind of Oliveira that we knew. That's the Andrew Harris, type of player, right? And we didn't see a lot of that in the season. But now that everything's on the line, they were giving it 110%. So yeah, there was no looking back for Winnipeg. They just dominated the whole game.
yeah, it wasn't. How do you think Trevor Harris played? There's a reason I'm asking this question, but you know where
I
it's
mean,
going to go eventually.
yeah. I mean, I thought he played well enough. I
To
don't think
win,
yeah, I don't think he lost the game for them.
I think he was down on the list of reasons they didn't win.
Yeah,
They lost.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, Zach Colaris was played a lot better game than Harris, but I don't think Trevor Harris, like I said, lost the game. There were a lot of other things that went wrong.
Okay, so let's look at it let's look at it from Saskatchewan then, because
Yeah,
Winnipeg's obviously the best in the West, 5 years in a row, representing the Western Division or Conference. What I can't
yeah.
even remember what it is.
I mean, they're getting older, and they were a lot slower in the season, but somehow that experience and that veteran experience was able to get them to take it up one more notch.
What I'm afraid. Well, I guess we'll talk about Winnipeg now since you made that point.
Yeah,
What I'm looking at Winnipeg is they've transitioned, and they started that last year, where at the beginning of the previous year they transitioned away, and then they even did that before with letting Harris go
yeah,
and then promoting Oliveira, right?
yeah,
So they did that 2-3 years ago.
yeah,
Of course, they lost one Grey Cup because of Harris was on with the Argos.
yeah,
Maybe not. Well, Harris had something to do in the fourth quarter, but I don't think that's the reason why they lost.
yeah,
But they started retooling. They let Jeff Coat go. Hardrick they let just walk away. If you notice their secondary and their linebackers, I mean, Big Hill was out for
yeah.
what, at least the last half of the
Yes,
year,
yeah,
right? So they've transitioned and they brought in new receivers, younger
yeah,
receivers. Yes, their main guys is still Caleros, is still Oliveira, Bryant is still there.
yeah,
They still have, I mean, Dembski, not old, but Schoen is younger. Lawler, older. But I mean, the rest of the receivers are really new. Like
yeah,
Wilson's is for what, first year, second year, first
yeah,
year. Some of these young, fast guys, they're lean. Yeah, they brought Lucky as a mid-year replacement. We'll
yeah,
see. We'll see what happens with Lucky.
yeah. he had a not a bad game. I mean, he did
Yeah,
he fumbled, right?
he fumbled.
But
Yeah,
other than that, I thought he played okay.
I mean, yeah.
He got a first down on a second and long.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. So that's a concerning thing as a Lions fan because you see the Bombers have retooled.
yeah,
Yes, some of their older players, their core guys are older,
yes,
and maybe Big Hill, this might be it, right?
yeah,
But some of their younger players have like Home, Cramdy,
yeah.
they really stepped up, and I'm
They
like,
did.
wow. And you know what Saskatchewan does, right? They do a lot of these short passes, and they get a lot of yak with their big, lean, physical receivers, right?
Yeah,
Schaefer Baker, Emilus, Johnson. They get and then they run. But Winnipeg, oh my goodness. Most of the time, a Saskatchewan receiver catches the ball. There is one guy right on top of him, either
exactly.
not maybe knocking the ball away,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
if not,
Just
they're
making a
getting
big hit.
they're making significant
Yeah,
contact.
yeah,
And even if that guy, even that receiver slips out of that initial contact, there's someone there's another bomber coming in, and they're just finishing. Those tackles are hard. Like that initial one, it might be the receiver may go down or may get stopped so badly that someone's come in and finishing the job.
yeah.
We just don't see that as much with the Lions.
We saw it once in Victoria.
Oh my goodness. One game out of
Yeah,
oh goodness.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's like I'm watching this. I'm watching the game. It's like the Lions. What happens if Lions face the Bombers in Winnipeg? I'm like, oh man, we're just gonna get blown.
yeah. That was what I was thinking too during the game. I said if Winnipeg was playing like this, even if we won against Saskatchewan, there's no way we're getting past this.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Harris was there, trying to throw, and Winnipeg's just that secondary is all over those receivers. Yes, there's some breakdowns near the end and that,
yeah,
but then like Winnipeg's offense was wow.
yeah, yeah. They're back to their old form on this game. Um, this game in particular, they were reminds me of how they used to be. We
Wow.
didn't see that a lot in the regular season, but yeah, they're for real.
So we talked about, so we were going to talk about Saskatchewan. We ended up talking about Winnipeg. That's all good. So Winnipeg's definitely a class above the Lions as we stand right now, right? Because obviously, well, there's going to be changes in the Lions, we know, but as how the Lions finish the season, Winnipeg's definitely a class above the Lions.
Yeah,
What would you say about the Riders? After, I mean, they beat us last week,
yeah,
kind of easily,
yeah,
kind of easily.
yeah.
And then after they're showing against, a team that's clearly a class above the Lions, how do you think Saskatchewan, BC stack up now?
Against each other.
Yeah, comparing Saskatchewan to BC.
Well, I mean the fact, I mean they beat us, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of hard to justify saying that BC's a better team.
I mean, maybe are we in the same tier? Are we close? Are they like a half a tier better than us, or are they
I,
with Winnipeg? Or
I think it's close. I think they home field makes such a big difference. Saskatchewan home field, BC. You know, um, we suffered, and then you could see the roles were reversed. They were in
yeah,
Winnipeg, and those horns just gets you right. Even just as a spectator watching, those horns are just like blasting all the time, and if you're on the field, it's gonna get to you. Um, so 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 there is home field advantage. So if we remove home field advantage, I think Saskatchewan and BC are pretty close. I think they're in the same league. Saskatchewan is clearly better at this stage, but I don't think it's in a separate tier.
I mean, and it's the CFL, so in the off season, there's going to be there's so many 1 year contracts. There's going to be so much player movement.
Yeah,
Potentially the Lions, there's going to be more than just player movement.
yeah,
And we can get it. We'll get into that in our subsequent podcasts. What we think will happen, but yeah, we have to expect that changes will happen. Well, there definitely is going to be happening on the quarterback position for the Lions.
Yes.
There's going to be some free agents. There's going to be some players maybe making too much from what they produced this, in this 2024 year
Yeah.
that the Lions will going to have to reevaluate.
Yeah.
Um, there's going to be some changes. I know for Saskatchewan, I think it's the first year of that the Corey Mace regime, so I think they're going to probably try to keep things
I think so.
good.
I mean, they've got a lot of good things happening. They're moving forward. You know, whereas the Lions had regressed this year,
Yeah.
Saskatchewan has actually improved a lot. So, so yeah, I think they're moving in the right direction. I think they're looking for tweaks. With the Lions, we got because we regressed quite a bit. Um, you got to look at some serious stuff, right? I'm not saying to blow it up. There's a lot of good stuff that we should keep, but we do need to make a few major changes.
So the biggest question out of Saskatchewan, so we'll just finish off with them, is who is going to be the starting quarterback for the 2025 year,
That's
Roland?
a good question. That's a good question. It all depends on whether Harris wants to continue or not. I think if he wants to continue, they'll stick with him.
He's 38 years old.
Yeah, but if he wants to play, I don't think they're gonna.
Does he bring you that X factor?
I mean,
that you're going to need to win a big game.
VA? Is VA better than Harris? I mean, we saw in the semifinal.
I mean, we can go through the available quarterbacks. I mean, okay, I'll give you available quarterbacks, right? So you are, what's his name? Wade? Is it no? Who's the G? Oh, it's O'Day, right? It's O'Day, right? It's all right. So you're the GM. You have VA. You have to trade for.
Yeah.
Right. Trevor Harris is he's a free agent. You know what you're going to get, and he's going to come back for another year, right? Yeah. He's been injured quite a bit. Yeah. Right. So again, you're getting a guy that probably cannot stay healthy for a full year now. Yeah. Okay. Keep that in mind. You have Vernon Adams Jr. You're going to have to trade probably your first round pick, a starting level Canadian, and then another asset. It's probably going to be 3 assets, at least 2, maybe 3 assets. Yeah. You're going to trade for Vernon Adams, and that's definitely your first round pick. Trey Ford or McLeod Bethel Thompson out of Edmonton. One of them is going to shake free. Yeah. Right? Calgary's going to probably reset their quarterbacks, but I don't know if any one of them is like really that interesting. Yeah. Maybe you can, maybe Davis Alexander from Montreal. They're not going to bring Cody back. Let's not even go there. Yeah. So Davis Alexander, Montreal, you just don't know. Like maybe he wants to be a starter. Maybe they want to do a 1A, 1B with Cody Fajaro. Toronto's probably going to stay flat now with, Chad Kelly going to be out for a few months. They're going to definitely need Cameron Dukes there. Yeah, Ottawa is, I don't think Mazzoli's really an option. Drew Brown's going to stay there. Yeah. Hamilton. Yeah, so basically, it's Vernon Adams, Trey Ford, McLeod Bethel Thompson, whoever Edmonton does not keep. But then if they both go to free agency, Saskatchewan will outspend them both, right? They'll outspend them. Yeah. Or one of the Calgary quarterbacks. You have Shea Patterson. You do have Shea Patterson as your backup. Yeah. So GM Roland for the Riders, the Green Riders, put your green hat on. What do you do?
So of all the quarterbacks you mentioned that are not in Saskatchewan right now, who potentially might be free, VA is on the top of the list.
Yeah.
Right. So then the question is VA better than Harris? We saw it. I mean, I love VA, but we saw in the semi-final, Harris played better.
You switch the quarterbacks, who wins that game?
True.
You switch the quarterbacks. Yeah. VA under that, behind that O-line. Harris behind the BC Lions O-line.
Yes.
Who wins that game?
Yeah, VA can win. Yeah, VA can win that game. if we switched it for sure.
I think he would have won with a larger margin
Than Harris,
than
you say?
Harris. Well,
Really?
because then, like,
Okay.
Harris needs certain building blocks in
Yeah.
place,
Yeah.
and then he's gonna execute. But when the pocket breaks down, what is he gonna do? Right? It's tough, right? He's doesn't he's 7 years older than VA. He's not gonna outrun a pocket breaking down. He's gonna
Yeah.
scamper first down. He's not gonna scamper and on the road on the run fire a wire. Mind you, that wire was picked off by Saskatchewan. But again,
Yeah.
he's facing the Saskatchewan defense is a lot harder than facing the BC Lions
For
defense,
sure.
and
Yes.
everyone knows that. So,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah, you make a good point. Yeah.
And they want to get to the next level.
Yeah.
I mean, what weaknesses does Saskatchewan really have? Their defense had a bad day. It's a bad scheme. Mesa's saying he's falling on the sword, and he's saying he's taking responsibility for
Okay.
this loss
What
because of
did he
his.
go? Did he go into any detail? What did he think he did wrong?
He's just said, quote unquote, crappy game plan.
Okay.
And that was his tweet, or that was a tweet I read.
Okay.
So, and basically is they didn't get enough pressure, and Caleros just beat them deep.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, because Saskatchewan usually has like a deep zone,
Yeah.
but they got kind of abused.
But some of those deep throws I thought was like a missed like the Saskatchewan defense, the DBs missed it. Right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, it could be just yeah. I mean, it could have been a blown assignment,
yeah,
but I mean,
yeah, those,
they just couldn't get pressure.
yeah,
And Caleros had all day, and then but Oliveira wasn't really a big factor until the second half,
yeah. But in the
right?
beginning, what the announcer was saying was that Saskatchewan had the best run defense, so they were not running a lot in the first half, but they were throwing short passes and then getting yak yards. Right? So maybe they were out schemed by the Winnipeg game plan.
Mm.
Yeah, and I can see why Corey Mace would say that, right? Because if they were out schemed, then that's on him, right?
Yeah, I think the def. I mean, Winnipeg just played a really good game now, but they gave up too many points as a defense,
Yeah,
and then they couldn't really force turnovers like they usually do. 'Cause they kind of go for the turnovers, and that swings momentum, and then puts doubt in the quarterback. But if you can't force turnovers, then it's hard. And Keyshawn Johnson drops a pass in his hands in the end zone. That would in the first half that would have
yeah,
put a little bit more doubt. But
yeah,
anytime like the Riders got close within maybe 8 points, boom,
yeah.
Bombers came in and just scored, and
Yeah,
it was just
Winnipeg is playing with another gear. I really felt that when I was watching them. So it's tough when everything is clicking. It seemed like everything was clicking for Winnipeg. They were focused on both sides of the ball, right?
I'm not 100% sure of the time down and distance, but remember I think it was early in the fourth quarter or late in the third. Saskatchewan was deep in their zone. It was like third down, and they went for it.
Yeah,
And they went for a pass, and it got knocked away. And then 1 or 2 or 3 plays later, Oliveira runs it in for a touchdown, and it's like 18 points or something stupid.
yeah,
I'm like, what?
yeah,
I get it. It's a playoff game, but you're pretty much turnover and downs in that point. Like they're in the red zone.
yeah,
I don't know. It's a little. You got to trust. You got to be able to trust your defense. That tells me you don't trust your defense. If you're in a punt, say you're scrimmaging around the 20 on your own zone, you're in a punt. You're going to give Winnipeg really good field position. So pretty much almost in field goal range
yeah.
with Castillo.
But they needed to score. They were so
But that was like
far back. Like if that was the third quarter,
at the end of the third or beginning of the fourth.
yeah, they were
I mean,
behind
they're
big.
down by what, 12, 14 points? I
Yeah,
mean, CFL, come on.
I know, but they hadn't. They needed to gain some sort of momentum because they were not having any
Or
momentum.
maybe their defense was tired and they said we had to do something this or we lost the game. And then pretty much
Yeah,
that was the nail in the coffin kind of, right?
yeah. So you know they went all in at that point. You know, a bit earlier than maybe what you would have, but I can see why, right? I can see why. Because you go
Yeah.
all in, and if they converted, then maybe that could have ended up in a score, and it might have given them a bit of momentum and giving them a better chance, right?
I think they had like three straight third down conversion like failures on third down.
Yeah,
And then they finally got that one in garbage time.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's where I think if you had a better quarterback, maybe make a play. Like you got the receivers to make
yeah,
plays for you.
yeah,
You got at this game, I don't know if they're going to keep both of them, but they have two import running backs that can make plays out of the backfield and run, right?
yeah,
And you just I mean, it's not on Harris. He's probably like I think the defense has to take a fair share of the blame for this one, a bigger share of the blame. I mean, that defense has led them. They need to get that run game going, and they couldn't.
yeah. The
Um,
51 yards for AJ Ouellette.
yeah, so I don't know. I just think that for them to
Yeah,
get to the next level, you need a dynamic quarterback that's gonna be like beat you deep. That's gonna do enough to scramble. Like Caleros, give him credit, right? He throws a really good deep ball, and he can still scramble and get that first down. I mean, he's not the most elusive quarterback, but he's dangerous, right? He's smart, and then has a nice O line that really helps.
yeah. But again, like I said earlier, this game they seem to play, you know, one level higher than most of their
So
regular
you
season
think
games.
this past game or yesterday was the best game they played
I
this
think so.
year?
Yes, yes. That's what I
Yeah.
felt watching them.
So they're peaking. They've on this big, fairly long, like winning streak slash. Like they had that one loss in there.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, they
yeah,
must. Everything's setting up for a nice victory for them.
yeah. Like the receivers were crisp and getting separation. The running backs, Brady Oliveira. I didn't see this type of intense running from him. So
You
yeah,
go to four Grey Cups in a row, Roland. You're like, the first third of the season.
I don't know about that.
We'll get there. Wow. I mean, yeah. After like game week 5 or week 6, you're like, if you fast forward it, like what BC lost? I mean, BC was 5-1. Toronto made it in. Toronto was just a 500 team. Winnipeg was like what 1-4, I don't even know 2-4, 1-4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So that's how you finish in CFL, right?
yeah. So I was really impressed with how Winnipeg played. I didn't think they had it in them anymore, but they proved me wrong with this. I even thought at one point in the game I thought maybe maybe they were not giving it 100%, like especially on the run game, because they knew they needed to wait until now to give it 100%.
Oh,
Because
I
we,
don't
we
know.
saw that from Andrew Harris how many years, right? Like
That's true.
he wouldn't give it all out, and then when it comes to the finals, he would be like all out, right? So maybe Brady Oliveira took that page out of his playbook.
Maybe. Well, they definitely don't. They seem like they don't save it against like games against us.
Yeah,
Wow. But yeah,
but
that was a good weekend of football.
it was, it's too bad that BC wasn't playing, But I think had we beat Saskatchewan, like I said earlier, I don't think we could have beaten Winnipeg at the way they played. Yeah. But
All right.
I think with Chad Kelly going down, if Saskatchewan had somehow eked a win against Winnipeg, they would have beaten Toronto next week. That's my feeling. Whoever wins, the West will probably win now that Chad Kelly is out.
I mean, I think with Kelly, the Argos have a much better chance. Obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty obvious to say that, but I think they would have had, well, maybe a no. I mean, their D's good. I really like McManus
Yeah.
or McInnes. He's really that middle linebacker, really good, like powerful
Yeah.
guy. And they got some like long, lean receivers that get open.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not like big names that we recognize from like from the receivers in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But Coxie's pretty good
I think
catching the deep ball.
yeah. I mean they definitely have skilled players, but I think unless they all say we're gonna do this for Chad Kelly and they really mean it, I don't know if they can match Winnipeg's intensity.
All right, well, we're going to swing into the Grey Cup now. We're talking about it.
All right.
What I mean, first of all, we need a prediction from you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I think you already told me it's going to be Winnipeg,
Yeah,
right?
it's gonna be Winnipeg.
And yeah, for me, it's Winnipeg. All right, so what would Toronto need to do to beat Winnipeg?
Todd S. and Toronto has Jarian Grant too.
Yeah. What if you're an Argos fan? Oh, what is it? Really?
Has for Life says, I really didn't like how the Lions basically made the playoffs because the other two teams lost. Just felt off.
Wow.
Okay, so Has for Life says, limit turnovers. That's his number one key.
Yep, definitely. All right, Roland, you're an Argos fan. What do you want to see for that? In order for their team to win.
So I think they showed it in this week in the Eastern Final where they played complementary football. When the offense couldn't do anything, their defense scored and then the special teams scored. I think they're going to have to continue doing that because without Chad Kelly behind center, their offense is going to be not as dynamic and it's going to sputter. So that's the first thing they need to do. The second thing they need to do, I think, is the offense needs to find in themselves the ability to cover for a weaker quarterback. So everyone in the offense needs to step up, and that's because there's a big drop off between Chad Kelly and
Arbuckle.
That's right. There's a big drop off, so that needs to be covered. If they were playing someone who, like other than Winnipeg, if they were playing Saskatchewan, let's say, maybe that's not as big of a factor. But if Winnipeg plays the same game they did this week, where they were like just on fire, they need that.
Right? All right, so.
But how about you?
I'm with you. I think on your first point, I think that Jarian Grant and that defense have to come up with like 14 points somehow. Like a turnover. It doesn't have to be a pick six for a touchdown, but it has to be a turnover that's in the Winnipeg, in the red zone. So then it's an easy score, right? So they have to generate about 14 points somehow.
Which is
somehow
what they did this last week.
Yeah, exactly. So something like that, they have to generate around 14 points. Yeah. And second of all, that D line, the Toronto D line, has to get pressure on a four-man rush.
Yeah,
they can somehow, because Toronto has a good D line. If they can get pressure on four-man rush against Winnipeg and cause Zach a whole bunch of problems. Now, we saw Saskatchewan tried to mix it up, and when they blitzed him, and at times, and Zach was a little off,
Yeah.
right? You give Zach lots of time, he's going to pick you apart potential when he's on his game,
Yes.
and he's on his game. He was on his game yesterday, and so you just don't want like if Zach has an off game, then maybe Toronto has a much better chance to win.
Yeah.
If Zach's on his game, then you need to put pressure on the quarterback. So
Yes.
so they're going to need to get pressure with 4-man standard without having to blitz necessarily.
Yes.
And they can cover Toronto's DBs. They can cover, and their linebackers can limit the run. So you got to take after you get pressure with 4-man, you have to take out Oliveira. Easier said than done.
Yeah, it's hard.
But you can limit them, and then you make Caleros beat you with their receivers. And then yeah. So that's one thing on a defensive point of view. Offensively, obviously, they're with Arbuckle back. There are our Dukes. They're gonna take away Kadeem Carey. It's pretty obvious. They're gonna take the run and make Toronto beat them via the air. And Arbuckle, I don't like his chances,
No.
but hey, if you got long receivers, and sometimes. Okay. The only thing working for Toronto is Winnipeg's lost the last 2 Grey Cups.
Yes, it could be in their head, so that could be their advantage. Yeah.
They peaked too early.
Or
Like Winnipeg, their best games usually in the Western Final in the last 2 years. Like they
Yes.
beat BC, now they play really well against Saskatchewan. So maybe their best game is the Western Final. They go to the Grey Cup, and it's not like they got blown out. They lost by tight scores. Go Toronto from a Habs fan? What am I seeing? Habs are alive. What am I seeing? What's this?
I think that's more an anti-Winnipeg vote than it is a pro-Toronto vote.
You're a Habs fan. How can you like anything from Toronto? I'm shocked. But I think so you just have to, if like
Yes, yeah, that's right.
that's
The only time ever,
here.
never Winnipeg. It's
Yeah, I get it. It's an anti-O'Shea thing. I think if Arbuckle can like beat them with his throws, I think Winnipeg gets frustrated, and then they'll start like, wow, maybe we're cursed, and then like that's what they got to do. So
Yeah.
and like bad bounces.
Yeah,
Hey,
if Winnipeg starts overthinking it and trying too hard because like you said, right, they're putting too much pressure on them, then that could play into Toronto's hands. Yeah,
because we look at Winnipeg's start. Yeah, they had some injuries as well, but they started the year not great and they were making like lots of bad bounces against Winnipeg.
yeah.
And they've had, I don't know how many good weeks of great bounces, like 3-4 months of great bounces. Things just going their way, right? Yes, they probably outplaying them a lot, and you're good to be lucky and lucky to be good.
Yeah.
They're just probably playing at a very high level, and things are coming to them because they're flying to the ball and they're there. But sometimes the ball bounces the other way, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering. Yes, they face adversity in the very beginning part of the year, but that's long gone from their end. It's like,
Yes.
But the 2 Grey Cups losses, that could come back. I mean, Winnipeg Toronto just has to put some doubt.
Yeah.
Keep the game close or up by a score or two,
Yeah,
and then adversity hits.
If they come out and score early and get ahead of Winnipeg, that would be a good a good step, right? Because Winnipeg was ahead the whole time against Saskatchewan. So if Toronto can somehow reverse that and come out ahead first, then that increased the chances of Winnipeg overthinking it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really like either team. Of course, being BC, I don't like Winnipeg, and Toronto, I just didn't like the way they kind of made the Chad Kelly
Yeah.
issues, they kind of just tried to ignore it and didn't really
Yeah.
face it on.
I
And
know.
I think that was
I mean,
a bad look.
yeah, he definitely was a good player, but you know, we've heard so many coaches at the younger level emphasizing character first before
Yeah.
talent,
Yeah.
right? That's what we teach little kids, and then here we are at the highest levels of football, and suddenly that goes out the window.
All because
So
because it's a star quarterback.
yeah, yeah. So that doesn't sit well with me. I mean, no doubt he's a good quarterback. No doubt
Yeah.
he's a good player,
Talent
and
wise,
we
yeah.
saw that.
Talent wise, yeah.
But we want to go beyond that, right? We need to. So that's my reason for not liking the team, because the management and the coaching staff stood behind that. Right? They made that decision. That was their call.
All right. Well, that's our Grey Cup preview, audience. All right. How much time we got left? We got 22. All right.
9:22. Yeah.
Roland, for the Lions, end of the season recap interviews. Anything that you felt like you watched them all the videos and all the articles that came out after the fact.
Yeah.
What kind of caught your eye? Any highlights from what they're saying?
I mean, the biggest thing that hit me was VA's interview a couple of weeks ago. How he said that it hurt him a lot when he was healthy and he wasn't, and he didn't get his job back. Didn't even get a chance to compete for it. But in spite of that, he did the right thing. That to me is a man of character, right? A man of character, and I've been telling people who aren't even football fans, just telling them this story, right? Because to me, football, the reason why I love football is the game. I love the game. I love the strategy. But to me, it goes beyond that. It's, I love football because we instill from a young age that it's about, the team first before me. It's about building character. It's about, being, having that aggression, but having it controlled, right? So all those things, right? And VA to me embodies what a true leader is, right? So that to me was the biggest takeaway from all these interviews after the loss, right? And what I saw too was in the interview with Rourke, there was one thing that Rourke said. He says, "I'm going to do my best to win the trust of the team and learn from what VA did." So that to me shows that VA had a huge impact, not just on the players, but even the person who's going to be replacing him.
That's pretty obvious, yeah.
Yeah. So if Rourke is able to kind of harness that, and that's a good thing. That's that. VA has done his job. He didn't even have to preach to Rourke, just by example through his own actions. So yeah, that to me is a class act. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was very obvious. That was very telling. He had the interview, and then the reporters are really going after that, right? I'll let Habs Relays comment go first.
Yeah, Habs says, so I put that on the coach for not recognizing that maybe, or is that unfair? What do you think?
I mean, it's hard to know. We don't know, right? We don't know what's going on in the room. After the fact, it's coming out, I think even I'm like the biggest Rourke fan here. And I thought initially, I said, yeah, he's probably going to be VA's backup, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's what they said when they got him in, right?
Well, I don't know if they
they didn't say he was backup, but they said that
we're gonna dress the quarterback that gives us the chance to win for that week's opponent, and then we're just gonna go week by week. They
didn't say that when they announced Rourke coming in. When they announced
Rourke, what did they say?
They said
we got to get that clip. We got to get that quote. But he obviously didn't do that, right? Because I always thought that he would be like VA's backup.
Yeah.
Because he'd work back into the system.
Yeah, that's how they positioned it when they first announced it, right?
But then, and then he got the Winnipeg game. They got I mean, it was hard, right? It was at home. It was a loss, and then the next game was a loss, and then he started to get traction, and Victoria was a big win. But he started playing a little bit better after that, and then Montreal was a big one,
Yeah.
very very good win on the road,
Yeah.
and that's where
That's when they made the decision to keep
Rick
Rourke.
Campbell took off his shirt.
Yes.
One of us, right? So,
Yes.
Coach Roland, VA's ready to go the week after that game.
Yeah.
Of course, hindsight being 2020.
Yeah.
You pull Rourke after that Montreal game. They 2-game winning streak. Do
Yeah.
you pull Rourke and put in VA as your starting quarterback at that point?
Yeah. So Habs for Life. I was about to say something similar, but Habs for Life says, didn't the coach see the shift in the player morale or play? He should see that immediately. Go back to VA. So going back to your question, Arthur. When the tables were on the other side, right? When VA came to back up Rourke, the moment Rourke was healthy, he was back on, and VA knew his role. So Rourke coming in also knew his role. Now they played him in Victoria. Maybe VA was not completely 100% yet. Also, he's a Victoria boy, so it makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think
And
VA.
then,
You said he was not even dressed.
yeah,
He was in like a hoodie,
yeah,
so he wasn't like he was on the game roster, but he wasn't going to play the
yeah.
game.
But I think Has for Life is right. As the coach, it's your job to read the room and understand what the players are thinking. Now, the morale issue probably did not surface until a few games later, right? But
Well, it's actually that next game against Toronto. We were at the game, remember?
yeah,
Perry was beside me,
yes,
and I was like, Perry, when are we seeing VA? He goes, oh, we're not gonna see VA. We're not gonna see VA. Warming up on the sideline to come out for the second half was
yeah,
VA. I looked at Perry. We both looked at each other. We're like, what the is going on?
yeah,
Don't let's remember that game. It's
yes,
not like game was out of hand,
yes,
right? Rourke runs in a touchdown to
yes,
make it kind of a one-score game. They had 40 seconds left, and then Toronto scores like a deep ball touchdown. You were like,
yeah.
what the right? And they're like, what? So,
But
and then VA didn't have first team reps.
yes, and I think that's where, looking back now, of course, hindsight is 2020. I think so. In the Montreal game, I don't was VA 100% already at the Montreal
I
game.
think he dressed. That was his first game. He dressed, but
Yeah.
didn't have any practice reps.
Yeah.
Right?
So then I think the Toronto game, they if they did the right thing, they should have gone back to VA, right?
I think they muddled that so bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think he could have went one way or the other, and he kind of went both, and he messed both quarterbacks up.
He
Like if you went with Nate, you let him finish the game because VA didn't have any first team reps.
exactly, yeah.
So
But-
if you're gonna start Nate, why would you pull him when he just scored ran in for a touchdown? It's not his fault the defense sucked and let another touchdown go the other way.
Yeah.
But you said, well, we needed a spurt because the offense looked flat.
Yeah. And then the week after that they go back to Rourke again, right?
Yeah.
So
Because I think VA goes, don't put places, don't put me on the field if I don't have first team reps.
yeah, so
We don't know that's what he said, but
looking back now, they either should have started given VA first team reps before the Toronto game, or after that they should have given it back
the
to
reins. I think after
Yeah.
the Toronto game, okay, hindsight being 2020.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have pulled Rourke at the end of the first half,
Yeah.
even though the team was flat, right? I think he gave VA a couple of series, but then mind you, and in that first series he was like, he made some quick throws, and everyone's like, all right, this is good, and then I think he either threw an interception or it didn't go anywhere, and then after that, they were coming after him, and then
Yeah.
he was just holding onto the ball too long.
Yeah.
But
But
they should have just they should have given. Yeah, I agree. The game after that, that Toronto game they lost, they should have let VA have first team reps and started VA that game.
yeah. But why did Campbell put VA in on the second half without giving him any first team reps?
They thought that the spark would be good enough.
Yeah. So he knew, Campbell knew that VA did have a chemistry with the players that Rourke didn't.
But so the practice on the week of that days before that game, because it was a bye, right? Was it a bye?
I don't recall anymore.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's we just don't know, right? That was such bad mojo that game.
Yeah.
Like I think that was like absolute worst thing you could do. I think if you stuck with Rourke, that would have been better. If you
Yeah.
started VA, that would have been better. But to do that switcheroo, you made them both look bad.
Yeah. But regardless of that one game, I think the bigger picture is that Campbell still left the reins with Rourke all the way up till the last.
Well, I mean,
regular season game,
he gave him rope, right? Because I'm gonna give you up to that pivotal game against the Riders, and you're gonna. He trusted that Rourke was gonna get it by that pivotal game against the Riders.
Yeah, and that's where I think, even though VA didn't verbalize it with his teammates until after the season, I think that's where Campbell might have lost the room with some of the players, because we saw afterwards with the interviews, right? A lot of the players said this was VA's team, and if the coach is have given the reins to Rourke, then the players. Yeah, so that was on Campbell. Looking back now, right? Of course, if we had won, if Rourke actually came back to his form 2 years ago, then we wouldn't be having this conversation, right?
We wouldn't have this conversation. I think Campbell was gonna go. I mean, let's be trend. Let's go back, right? I know VA didn't have like the last half game against the Riders, which they lost by a point, and then they made them 5-2. That pretty much shutout game versus Winnipeg. Those were 1.5 games VA started to regress.
Yeah,
right? And then he got injured, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like VA was firing on all cylinders, got that freak injury, and he's out. Like he was already starting to regress. There was like two teams were able to shut down VA.
Yeah.
For three halves, pretty much essentially 3 halves of football. Yeah. So maybe I don't know, but maybe Campbell thought, okay, that's probably the trend. They're gonna rush 3, have 1 spying, and they're gonna put 8 in coverage. And VA wants to go deep, wants to be a gunslinger, wants to make people believe, and he can't get big yardage, and he's just having a hard time seeing that underneath stuff.
Yeah, but you see, my counterpoint to that, I hear what you're saying. My counterpoint to that is how what Campbell did to address that was to put in a different quarterback, but keep the same playbook.
Yeah. What
he should have done was go back to the starter and change the playbook.
Well, yeah, for sure.
So,
but I think we can say Vernon Adams likes to stretch the field more than Rourke, right? Vernon Adams likes to take more chances deep than Nathan, and maybe Nathan from 2022, Nathan was really much better at throwing into those tight windows. And I think Vernon, although in the week 1 through varying success in week 1, all the way through week 6, was doing really well in those windows, right? But I mean, I think some of those later wins, they were getting by, right? I mean, against Winnipeg, they got by. That first win against Winnipeg, they got by. It was a 1-score game. A lot of injuries on the Winnipeg side. I don't even think Caleros was playing that game, and they won by like one possession. They should have blown them out, right? So that was like something that you just keep in mind. So I'm wondering, they were always 2024 Vernon Adams through the ups and downs was constantly being compared to 2022 Nathan Rourke.
Yeah.
Maybe a very unfair comparison, but as a head coach, you're like, maybe Nate would have made that throw. Maybe Nate would have read that better. Maybe blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't know, right? But it just seemed like when it came down to the fact Campbell's was going to put his season on the line for Nathan Rourke because he get all that rope all the way to that Riders game, rightly or wrongly. This is my take. What Campbell was going to go like, Nate's my guy.
Yeah.
Until that Riders game, oh, we lost it. Oh. And probably Nathan picked up a small injury. They're not going to tell you, right? They don't need to.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, maybe we just go to VA now.
Yeah, and it's a little too little, too late.
Well, yeah,
It's
for sure.
A lot of what ifs, right? If it had gone earlier to VA, could the team have consolidated and gotten into a momentum? Hard to say, right?
Hard to say.
But I think the fact that Campbell hitched his wagon to going with Rourke all the way till the end, then
Until the Saskatchewan game,
Yeah.
pretty much, when they lost that.
yeah, I mean, by then it's, we were already in third place, right? We could have
Yeah, so we're baked in, so they had nothing to lose.
yeah,
Nothing to lose.
We could have had a home playoff. We were on track for a home playoff.
We were.
But so
They just needed to win one game in Regina. Mind you, that's hard. But
yeah, but if I were the owner, that was a decision Campbell made. Then he needs to be accountable for that.
Well, he
decision.
will be, and that I mean, he makes that QB. Well, I mean, maybe with his OC in mind.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'll say is you mentioned about potentially losing the room, right? And obviously the quarterback change within the Toronto game was I think poor decision making, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whether you want to say VA should have started that game or VA started the next game, whatever, and all that, replacing 8 at a half, I think that was just, I don't know. I didn't like it. I think the team lost trust in the coordinators during that losing streak.
Yeah.
When they're 5-1, Winnipeg adjusted.
Yeah.
Winnipeg was blitzing.
Yeah.
And V was just torching them on man-to-man coverage, and he can just buy some time, throws it up there. Calgary goes, all right, we're dropping 8-9 guys in coverage. Beat us.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't.
Yeah. You're right.
And
You're right.
You made these points early in those weeks because we should adjust. We can't be going to the well trying to go deep against deep zone defenses.
Yes.
I mean, we're playing into their hands, right?
Yeah.
And then we're not doing the easy underneath stuff, right? Running the ball more, doing the high percentage passes underneath and then chipping away versus trying to go down, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say that. What do you think about that? The Lions players lost trust in the coordinators.
I agree.
On both sides of the ball.
I agree. I don't think it's an either or. So I think Campbell lost the room, and I agree with you that they also lost confidence on both sides of the ball. Both coordinators, on the offense for not adjusting their plays, and for RP just sticking with the same thing through, like not making.
Okay, let me say this. The scouting, the pro scouting and the amateur scouting, or U.S. recruitment for the defense is probably just as much to blame as the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Because they brought in these guys, and they were supposed to be, for the whole year. Hopefully, they would have learned to progress and to be better. And there was maybe some growth, but it's hard to quantify that in wins and losses, unfortunately. And some of the guys they let go became all-star. Like Marcus Sales, they let go, became an all-star as a corner.
Yeah.
with Saskatchewan, which hurts. Mojay left and he went to Toronto. I think he had a good year until he got injured. So like these decisions, I know maybe they're trying to cut. They're trying to cut the. They reallocate their cap, but I think that for from the defensive side of the ball, it was more the recruitment and their player decisions, like who to cut, who to keep,
True,
more
but
than potentially the coaching.
but the coach still needs to. The coach still needs to be able to adjust. You can't keep hitting your head against the same spot on the wall. Has for Life says, agree with this, but is this fixable for next year? Like definitely, I would say yes. But before we get to that, I still put blame on RP because yes, he was dealt a bad hand in terms of the players, right? But the scheme wasn't working, and we know that it wasn't working. His defensive scheme,
The bend don't break.
but
Don't give up the deep ball.
but there was no change. There was no change, right? So he still kept going with it. It's like I know it's not working, but this is the best I could do.
Definition of insanity.
Yeah, this is the best I can do. So I'm just going to keep playing this and hoping that something's going to change.
Well, they're hoping that the only thing that would change is just better, great, more experience from these young guys. Hopefully, they mature and match, and
Yeah.
rise as they get more experience, and maybe like return of some help. I mean, they had a lot of injuries. I mean, hey, every team had injuries,
Yeah.
so
But
that's maybe another issue.
but
On the
if
offensive, on the offensive side, I blame more the OC than
yeah,
the recruitment.
but on the
player
defense too,
recruitment.
because if I saw some attempts to try to, you know, to try to mix it up and try different things to see if we can get something that works, then I would say okay, at least he's trying. But if you just keep running the same thing over and over again, even though you know it's no longer working, then there's no effort there, right? So
Yeah,
Habs, and we're getting past.
we're getting
It's
yeah, we're
9:43,
getting.
but Habs has a question. Maybe if you answer this, is this fixable for next year? I think it is. But what do you think, Arthur?
Well, yeah. I mean, there there's gonna be changes on Leoland, right? So there's, I think, I mean, there's kind of a moratorium on like I guess news from the organization because of the Grey Cup. So they don't want anything clouding over the Grey Cup. So we won't know until after the Grey Cup, but I suspect there's going to be some changes. I think there's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of teams that are looking for a potential change. I can see maybe 3, 4 teams. Like I guess the teams that played this weekend, maybe they're okay. They're status quo. They may lose people, coaches, and management due to the other vacancies among the other 5 teams in terms of like new GMs, new coaches, and things like that. So, but I think these 5 teams that did not play this weekend, I think they're all looking for potential changes on the executive branch and on the coaching end. So, I think BC's there too, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, they need new voices. Obviously, the players have tuned out the coordinators. Like fundamentals took a step back,
Yeah,
right? I mean, Greg and Roland have been all over about the tackling, all over. It was just not good enough. So I mean, I think those are fundamental skills. So yeah, and then hey, it's CFL, a lot of 1-year contracts. So yeah, this question is how much do you want to allocate to prime positions?
yeah,
But yeah, it's definitely fixable. In the CFL, you can easily retool.
yeah. I mean, I'm hopeful. I think we got a lot of good pieces. We got some big pieces that need to be replaced or improved, but I think it's doable. Even if we lose VA, if part of his leadership style starts to rub off on Nathan Rourke, and if he can earn the trust, not just through skill, but through really earning the respect of the room, then I think he can get back to form of what we saw 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
On the defense side, I think we're going to need to see some changes, not just in personnel, but in schemes. And if that means changing changing the DC, then maybe. Has for Life says, I want that 2022 pass rush back too. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And if we keep Betts, hopefully he'll be able to bulk up again. And
Not at that dollar level. Like he's gonna, he can't. I mean, maybe someone's still gonna give it to him, just based on the 2023 year.
yeah,
But based on this year, he's not gonna get big bucks.
yeah, and maybe
So
that's a good thing.
yeah,
That's a
maybe the
good thing.
Lions will get us. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a wrap, Roland.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Next week's Grey Cup, so it'll be fun. Last game of the season. BC's not there, but still love to watch the Grey Cup. So
Our
see you
live stream
guys.
won't be on the Sunday, right, Roland? It'll be on the Monday.
Yeah, well, yeah, it'll be a late game, so we'll do it on the Monday next week. Yeah, Has for Life says thank you too. Have a great week, guys. And if you're catching us on after the live stream, leave us a comment too. Take
Who
care.
do you think's gonna win the Grey Cup? And yeah,
Yes.
and whatever comments you had for this episode.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. We'll talk more about the Grey Cup, and in the subsequent episodes, we'll talk more about more specifically about what changes we want to see. We talked a bit at a high level today, but once we start hearing some news, we'll be able to comment more on those too.
All right, have a good night, everyone.
Okay. Good night. Bye bye.